Good afternoon, campers. I am headed to Tractor Supply for my weekly supply run for my fur kids. I have to get dog food and cat food and a few other things. Got on my Outback hat and my brand new Outback jacket. I love it. Got it from Amazon. Originally it was $219. They put it on sale for $187. And I said, bingo. I'll take almost $40 savings, and I did. So, as I've told some friends today, put a fork in it, it's done. After the Supreme Court showed their lack of spine yesterday. You know, they've been talking about for the last couple of years, the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the rest of that rogues gallery about, well, if the president does this and such, it could create a constitutional crisis. Well, friends and neighbors, as far as I'm concerned, we have a constitutional crisis now because the United States Supreme Court has abdicated its responsibility to enforce the Constitution. Now, regardless of what the media says or tries to tell you of the president's baseless allegations of a stolen election, yada, 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 and there's no evidence, and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, there was evidence. There's tons of evidence. You know, nobody wanted to see the evidence. Nobody wanted to look at the evidence. After they demanded it be presented to the media, well, it was finally presented to the courts. The courts put 10-foot pole marks all over it. So, well, no, that's not good enough. So then the Texas Attorney General files a lawsuit against Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Georgia, rightfully alleging that they not only failed to follow their own state constitutions by illegally changing the rules in the middle of the election, they also violated the United States Constitution. Well, for those unfamiliar, the 14th Amendment was created to embody equal rights to all Americans, specifically at the time, the freed slaves. And it has been used numerous times since then, including the 2000 election between Bush and Gore, when Florida failed to abide by their own laws and created disparate treatment among the citizens of Florida in that election, forcing the court to intervene and invoke the 14th Amendment to decide the election in Florida for George Bush. Yet they refused yesterday at 8 p.m. yesterday. I thought it was pretty cute. They released their findings at 8 p.m. on Friday that they basically were not going to hear the case. Now, Justice Alito had agreed to take the case, and they took the case, and 19 other states filed briefs in support of Texas's lawsuit. 106 Congress people filed briefs in support of the Texas lawsuit. But when it finally came before the court, after the Supreme Court requested that Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan and Georgia file responses to it by Thursday, which they did apparently, then after that, the Supreme Court said, well, we're not going to hear it. We don't believe there's an issue here to be heard. We don't believe that it needs to go any further. And the real oddity to it was none of them had the spine or the gonads, depending on which way you want to look at it, to even write dissenting opinions as to why they were not going to hear it. It just came down as a decision absent any official justice's opinion. So that's the way it is. And in doing so, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, they abdicated their constitutional responsibilities to follow the Constitution. Now, we all know why they did it. Because they knew that going in, if they were to do something, to intervene and to set aside the electoral votes of those 4 states, that the election would be thrown into the House of Representatives and the 12th Amendment would be invoked, where the state legislatures of the 50 states would put forth 1 vote each to the House of Representatives over who they wanted a president. And with 30 red states and 20 blue states legislatures, then the obvious winner would have been Donald Trump. But the obvious aftermath of that would have been anarchy in the streets, because Barack Obama and his Action Now coalition of infinity groups, for those of you that don't know, look up the term infinity groups on the internet. You'll see who all's involved, from Antifa to Black Lives Matter to all manner of anarchist, communist, and Marxist groups in this country. They would have been in the street burning and rioting and raising hell right now if the Supreme Court had ruled in favor of the Texas lawsuit. So that's what the impetus was. That's what the motivation was behind the Supreme Court's actions. And like I've told people, someone rightfully said, I think it was Kayleigh McEnany yesterday before the court ruled, she said, we're getting ready to determine if our Constitution is truly a living, breathing instrument for freedom and the continuation of our republic, or we're going to learn that it's just an archaic piece of parchment in the National Archives. Well, as far as I'm concerned, she was right. And as far as I'm concerned, the latter is the reality. Our Constitution is basically a worthless piece of paper now. This government was set up with three branches of government: the executive, the presidency, the legislative, Congress, and the Senate, and the judiciary, the Supreme Court. They all have the power and authority to have checks and balances over the others, with the Supreme Court's checks and balances being constitutionality. Now, supposedly, we've got Justice Thomas, Justice Alito, they were on the court. They are supposedly constitutionalists. Then President Trump appointed Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and most recently Comey Bryant, all of which are supposed to be constitutionalists. Now, we all know that Chief Justice Roberts is just a turncoat. He's not voted with the conservatives that I know of on anything in the 10 or so years he's been on the court, or 15, whatever it's been. George Bush appointed him. He's never voted with the conservatives. He's always voted with the liberals. So everybody said, well, we got a 6-3 majority. No, we got a 5-4 majority. We had a 5-4 majority. And as of yesterday, we have no majority. Because they showed their true colors. They showed what they're going to do when the chips are down. When people want justice under the Constitution. The Constitution is not some mysterious legalese document that only those wearing robes can decipher. If you read the Federalist Papers going back to Jefferson and Madison and the rest, it's all there. They intended to, and they drafted the U.S. Constitution to be a document that the common person could read and understand. That's why it's written with common language. That's why there's no Latin in it, like all other things of that era and all the years since. So they turned around and they abdicated their responsibility to uphold the Constitution. And so here we are. Monday, the Electoral College votes will be submitted, and Biden will be unequivocally declared the winner. And on January the 20th, he will be sworn in as President of the United States. And make no mistake, Joe Biden is just a useful fool to the Democrats. He's a feeble-minded, easily controlled and manipulated individual. The true power behind the throne right now is going to see to it that Kamala, camel toe, Harris is going to be your president. I promise you, within 6 months, they will find a reason to ease Joe out the door. He will either go willingly of his position and say, well, I just can't do this, I'm sorry, I'm going to step down, or they will remove him under the 25th Amendment. Kamala Harris is going to be your president. So, on January the 5th, we have the election, the runoff election here in Georgia for our 2 Senate seats. Kelly Loeffler versus Raphael Warnock, who is an abject, outright socialist and appeaser and a follower of race-based religion and a student of Jeremiah Wright and his black liberation theology. And then we've got David Perdue over there running against Jon Ossoff. Jon Ossoff, for those that don't know, what's his claim to fame? Well, his claim to fame was he ran for Congress a couple of times and was defeated, but before that, Jon Ossoff was an intern for the late, great John Lewis. And after he ceased being an intern for John Lewis, he became an intern for Hank Johnson in Congress. For those of you that don't know, look up the Honorable Hank Johnson from DeKalb County. The man that questioned whether or not they should move more Marines to the island of Guam for fear it would capsize with that many people on it. Yeah, that guy. This is who Jon Ossoff has studied at the feet of, along with John Lewis, for the past 15, 20 years. And Jon Ossoff owns his own company that he goes around and investigates corruption around the world. Well, you know what? He ought to know how to do it. But the bottom line is this: we have shot ourselves in the foot here in Georgia. Once again, Brian Kemp is the most disappointing governor, in particular, supposed Republican governor I've ever seen. And he's going to be voted out next time. Count on it. 2 years from now, he's going to be voted out. Either Stacey Abrams is going to run against him and win, or someone like her is going to run against him and win. Because by that time, in particular, if they have succeeded in flipping these 2 Senate seats, Georgia will be blue. So these are things to look forward to. These are things to keep in mind, folks. You know, if as it stands right now, Perdue is trailing Ossoff. No mystery there, not the least of which because of his stock trades. Kelly Loeffler had stock trades too, but last I heard, she's supposedly leading Warnock. She's only leading Warnock because of the revelations of his "you can't serve God and be in the military, and the police are a bunch of thugs," you know, with a hoodlum and thug mentality, and we need to release, they need to let our children out of prison, all that stuff. All of these are sermons that he's given, just like Jeremiah Wright, and they're on record. They're using them to reveal his true colors to people. So, I think the best we can hope for is Loeffler may beat him. It's looking right now to me, Jon Ossoff's going to beat David Perdue, which if that happens, it's going to give us a 1-vote slim majority in the U.S. Senate. But if both of them lose, it becomes 50-50. And Camel Toe Harris becomes the tiebreaker, and they are going to ram through every bit of their socialist agenda within the first year of the Biden presidency. So, I told people a couple of months ago before the election that it was very, very important that Trump win this, because if he didn't, we had trouble coming. Well, we got trouble coming, and we got more trouble coming if we lose one or both of those Senate seats. So, that's all the news that is news on this dreary December day in Dixie. So as I said, I'm headed to Tractor Supply, a couple other places, do my weekly chores for supply runs, and I'll post this and see what everybody thinks. Semper Fi, live long and prosper, never forget.